Hello, you may call me Void, and this video is going to be a quick introduction to myself and my channel. I'll be introducing myself, I'll give a little explanation of hypnosis as I understand it, a couple of important disclaimers before people listen to any files I post. I'll go through the numbering system that I've designed to keep track of the files I create, and then I'll have a few closing words. My name is Void. I am a non-binary person from Norway who has been interested in hypnosis for a little while now. I was introduced to the hypnosis and hypno-kink community in January of 2026 at a Hypno-Kink 101 panel at an event that I went to. I really enjoyed the panel and I learned a lot from it, and from that I sort of spiraled into a fascination with hypnosis and hypno-kink, and I've done a lot of reading, a lot of learning, a lot of listening to files with the intent of a sort of technique study, rather than actively participating in the trance, which has proved helpful sometimes and a little frustrating at others. But I've spent a lot of time learning and want to create my own. Outside of hypnosis, I am interested in art, writing, and music, and the art you'll see over my channel, all of the visual details on my channel are designed and drawn by myself, and the writing also comes into play in scripting or coming up with hypnosis ideas. So, what is hypnosis? And this is a question that you may have, or you may already be quite familiar, but I feel it's only right to give an explanation of my understanding of it, because some people might be new to the topic and might be curious, and others might just want to know what I personally think. So, hypnosis or trance is like a specific type or style of directed attention or directed focus. Usually it is accompanied by things like relaxation, but that's not always the case. It's helpful but not necessary to relax. And I've included a dictionary definition of hypnosis that comes from the Merriam-Webster that maybe helps to give a little bit of an idea, but I would like to make a few remarks as to how it's not very representative of what hypnosis actually is like in practice. The definition from the dictionary states that hypnosis is a trance-like state that resembles sleep but is induced by a person whose suggestions are readily accepted by the subject. And I think it's a little bit of an error to refer to hypnosis as particularly resembling sleep, because though there are some similarities and some parallels, they are quite different. Hypnosis is not an unconscious state. It's more of a specific attention. You're narrowing down your attention in a way. And I think that is one of the main things that sets it apart from sleep. And other than that, the phrase about open to suggestions is pretty much correct, although there are different degrees to which a subject can be open to suggestions, and there is a whole concept known as subject agency, in which a person should learn to take or not take suggestions that a hypnotist gives in interest of their own safety and well-being. Another helpful way I like to explain hypnosis is that it's similar to guided meditation, especially in the format of online audio files. They're quite similar to guided meditation audios. The main difference is, of course, the content or the theme, as well as the specific structure, because hypnosis tends to follow a structure with a few specific steps, those being pre-talk, induction, deepener, and awakener, and potentially talking, like an after-talk as well. And most types of hypnosis follow this structure pretty well, whereas guided meditation is a more broad term that can refer to a lot more than just that. I have a few important disclaimers that I would like to put out there before anyone listens to any files I create. Firstly being, your mind is your mind, and it is very important that you pay attention to what you're deciding or not deciding to listen to, and protecting yourself, especially if you have any triggers or any themes that make you uncomfortable. I urge you to please pay attention to things like file names and descriptions, and I will be putting transcriptions of all my files easily accessible, either in the video description or through other means on YouTube. So if you have anything that triggers you that isn't readily revealed in the title, you can read through the transcription quickly and just make sure that everything there is safe for yourself. My second disclaimer is on the topic of informed consent. So that just means having all of the information readily available to you before consenting to participating in something like hypnosis. Now, none of my files, especially on YouTube, are going to be sexually explicit. However, there is still a layer of necessity for consent involved in any sort of kink-related content. So, I will be putting as much information as I possibly can about each file, as many informational tags and whatnot. I have a file numbering system that I'm going to go through in this introduction, where I explain what different letters mean, but I will also be including everything that you may want to know in the video description. So I encourage you to read descriptions, especially if you're sensitive to specific things, and make sure that you're fully informed on what you are participating in. My third disclaimer is that I am not a doctor or a professional in any means. All of the hypnosis content that I produce is purely for fun, for enjoyment, and is not intended to help with any psychological struggles, any sort of health issues. I am not providing therapy, I am providing fun on my channel. Now, with the more serious stuff out of the way, I would like to explain my file numbering system that I've put together, because I want a way to organize everything that I create in a way that it can be easily sorted through, and also a glance can be taken at it to figure out kind of what's in the content. So, on the center of the screen, I have an example of a file number, which starts with the letters VS, and this stands for void site. So any pre-recorded files are just going to be VS, with nothing additional there. If I ever end up doing something like live streaming, I will then, if I then record that stream, I will take that stream and that file will then begin with VSL for Void Site Live. And then there's a dash, and the next letter indicates the broad category that the file falls into. So, for example, W for wholesome, this refers to kind of gentle, more hypnosis-centric and less roleplay, less kink kind of stuff. So this is more everyday, gentle sort of hypnosis, whereas K for kinky would be more intense scenes, but still not explicit. If I ever do make an explicit file, it will be marked with E at the beginning there. And then the 3-digit number that comes after that just refers to the chronological number of the file. So these numbers are going to be consecutive despite the category. So if there is a W017, there would not also be a K017. So it would just be in order of how many files I've made. This makes it easier to sort through and find them in the sense of both my file storage as well as going through my channel and finding or even remembering numbers. And the last few letters indicate specific hypnosis features in the file. In this example, I have FR, which stands for fractionation heavy. So in a file where I use a lot of fractionation, I would put FR, or for example, a file that does not have awakener and is induction only would be marked with I at the end here. Some online files are induction only and do not specify this on the file, and I think this is one thing that can lead to issues sometimes. So it will always be clearly marked when a file of mine does not include awakener at the end. And there could be multiple of these end tags. For example, if it's induction only, but I also use a lot of fractionation, then it would be FRI, with the capital letter being either the first or only, and lowercase letters being consecutive in the structure of these tags. So this example that I've provided here would be a pre-recorded wholesome file that is the 17th one that I have recorded and would be heavy in fractionation. So that's what this means. And with this file numbering system, this is for an at-a-glance decision of what the content of the file is. And there's no need for you to memorize any of this at all. I will put everything that you need to know in the video description in full written out words and sentences, so you can read through the video description rather than trying to memorize a bunch of letters and tags. But if you do want to memorize letters and tags, this can be a helpful way to take a glance and decide what you do or do not want to listen to. And that is everything that I have for the introduction video today. I'm excited to begin my journey with recording and learning more interesting techniques for hypnosis. One thing I would like to point out is that I am very open to comments if you have questions, feedback, or suggestions, pun intended. You can just comment them on my videos, let me know of anything, your thoughts, how a file made you feel, if you have any ideas of new themes for files, or if you have some bit of feedback that you think would improve an existing one. I'm always happy to hear what you have to say. I hope you enjoy yourself on my channel, and I will see you next time I release something. Thank you so much for watching.